Hello and welcome to the Essential Property Podcast with your hosts, Paul Samuda and Amanda Woodward. With 45 years of combined experience in the world of property buying, selling, investing and developing, they are here to share with you their knowledge in the Stoke-on-Trent, Newcastle-under-Lyme and Crewe property market. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Essential Property Podcast. I'm Amanda Woodward and today I want to talk about something that every landlord and property manager in the UK needs to know about right now, and that's the Renters' Rights Bill. Now, this act has officially become law. It received royal assent on the 27th of October 2025, and it's going to completely reshape the private rented sector over the next year. Now, we've been talking about this a lot on the podcast, and as we now have the official royal assent, I thought it was important to bring you an up-to-date episode. But here's the thing, the first phase actually starts in December 2025, so just a couple of months away, and that phase affects us all, even before any of the tenancy law changes come into play. So in this episode, I'll explain exactly what's happening on the 27th of December, a nice Christmas present for us all, why it matters, how to make sure that you're protected, and what we're doing at Essential Management to keep our landlords completely safe and compliant. So let's just talk a little bit about the background and recap. So what is the Renters' Rights Act all about? In short, it's designed to create a fairer, safer and more transparent rental market, and it replaces the old Renters Reform Bill and brings in a good bit of change. So as most of us are aware, it's ending the Section 21 no-fault evictions, moving on to periodic tenancies rather than fixed tenancies. It limits rental increases now just to one per year, with 2 months notice on that. It's talking about the introduction of a national landlord and agent database, a mandatory ombudsman membership, and for the first time, a decent home standard for the private rented sector. So those are the big headline changes, but they don't all happen straight away, and the government has chose to phase them in step by step. So exactly what's going to happen on the 25th of December is the first milestone, and this is when the local housing authorities get new enforcement and investigatory powers. So I think this is probably the bit that landlords may be most scared of, and it's the bit where we thought that the local authorities were probably overreaching a little bit when it comes to the affairs of landlords and agents, because it means that councils will now be able to request all information from you, tenancy agreements, deposit certificates, safety documents. Now, to be honest, they have been doing that for quite a while in the HMO space, but it just gives them more power to do that now. They can even enter business premises and investigate compliance systems. They will investigate complaints, they'll investigate potential breaches, and they're now able to issue civil penalties and even prosecute you for non-compliance. Now, as I say, in the HMO world, that's actually quite normal, and we're used to that. We're used to HMO officers requesting information from us. In the buy-to-let space, you often don't hear from the housing standards team, but this doesn't just cover HMOs, this covers the whole private rented sector, and the local authorities are now empowered with more power to investigate you. So even though the tenancy law itself doesn't change, from this date in December, local authorities can start checking how well landlords and agents are managing their legal responsibilities. So in other words, the enforcement switch is being flipped on, and your compliance documentation now becomes your legal defence. As we've said to landlords for many, many years now, it's all about what you can prove. What do you have on paper? What can you prove? Where are your certificates? Not what your intentions were, but what have you actually done and what you can prove. So this first phase really does matter. Now, some landlords might be thinking, well, the big change is Section 21 and the change to tenancies, and that's not coming in yet. But, it will come around quickly. It's looking like that might come in spring 2026, but you need to start preparing now. Because from December, it's no longer about what's coming. We've been speaking about the Renters' Rights Bill. When's it coming in? Well, it's here. 27 December, it's here. So if a local authority officer asks you for your gas cert or your fire risk assessment, then you'll need to produce it quickly and accurately. And if you can't, you could face a fine. And that's even before the act takes effect. And that's why this stage matters so much. It's all about accountability and evidence. So, what we've been doing at Essential Management, we've been preparing for this for over a year now. We manage hundreds and hundreds of HMO rooms and a few single let properties as well across Crewe and Stoke. We've also got properties in Birmingham, Burton-on-Trent. We have our first property down in Reading. So those of you that have been listening know that we have been expanding geographically, and we've been applying all of our preparation, across those companies. We've been doing, property audits, making sure that all the houses and their certificates are up to date and in place, and any new legislation that's coming in that perhaps didn't apply to you before, you're now being brought up to date with. And as landlords, often we just do see, another certificate on the statement or another cost, but it's mandatory. We've got to do it. We've got to be compliant. We've got to be up to date. We've now audited and centralised some filing systems to make sure that documents are, easily accessible as soon as we need them, that we can audit them quickly. No longer does a gas certificate get written, out manually with pen and paper and pinned to a notice board. Everything now has to be digitally stored, which we mostly were anyway, but we've just tidied that up a little bit. We've been doing audits on our right to rent verifications. We're really strict and fully compliant when it comes to right to rents. But visas expiring, it's important that we keep up to date with those expiries and make sure that all of our tenants are compliant, and making sure that the people that we think are in the HMO rooms are actually the people in the HMO rooms, and a tenant hasn't decided to switch out after a few months and we don't know about it, and who are they. So we've been doing some face-to-face checks as well, really doing a deep dive to make sure that we're covering not just the compliance for the property, but also the tenancy compliance as well. We have 2 team members whose full-time role is compliance. One of them looks after the property compliance and one of them looks after the tenancy compliance. That's 2 full-time members of the team. They're then led by myself, and I lead all of the local authority inspections and communications. So if the HMO officers need to contact anyone at the company, that's me. And then I have the 2 team members there who are on a daily basis making sure that we're fully compliant and protecting our properties and our landlords' properties. We've been doing quite a bit of staff training. Team members can sometimes feel a little bit removed from what's happening at the coalface. As landlords and as owners, it affects us so much. We've all become almost experts when it comes to compliance. But we've been working on making sure that our team are trained as well. When an email comes in and a tenant says, I've got a little bit of mold in my room, prior to the renters' rights bill, that would get scheduled. A team member would go out, we'd send it to the maintenance team. But we've got to be hotter than that now. How do we communicate with the guest? How do we look into the reason why the mold has appeared? How quickly do we deal with it? And most importantly, how do we document that? And if somebody asked us how did we deal with that, we can easily pull it out and show this is how we this is how we acted in light of that tenant's complaint. And it's all about communication, keeping tenants informed. If there is an issue, what are we doing to fix it, so we can produce that audit trail should we get asked to at any point. So it's just overall raising the standards within letting agencies. That's what the bill's looking to do, and we've been working on that for a while to make sure that we're not being caught on the hop. Enforcement starts in December, and that's when we will likely see a little bit of increase in communications, from Cheshire East, from Stoke-on-Trent City Council, because they will be briefed themselves internally that they need to do more on the ground. And, we are one of the largest HMO landlords in the cities and the towns that we operate. So no doubt the communication will increase accordingly. So if you're a landlord, you're listening to this, what should you be doing right now is a good question to ask yourself. I would start auditing whether you're working with an agent or whether you're self-managing, pull out that gas safety certificate. Where is it? I know you might think you have one, but where is it? When was it done? When's it due to be renewed? If you're responsible for that, as an agent, we have all that covered for our landlords. But if you're self-managing, you need to see that information. What reminders have you got set up to remind you to renew them? Because the local authorities, come the time, I'd like to think that they're reasonable and practical, but they now have a lot more enforcement powers. So, if you're one day over on your gas certificate, they have all of the right to, to fully pursue you. So it's really important that you've got those up to speed. Organise your records, make sure you've got digital copies of everything. Check things like your agreements, your deposits, your visas, your expiry dates of your visas. And just stay informed, follow the guidance, because this is actually only the start. Because what's coming next in 2026 is the second phase of the rollout. This is where there'll be some quite major transformation. This is when the end of Section 21 and the no-fault evictions really kicks in. New tenancy agreements, new rules around rent increases, the new database and ombudsman registration, and finally the decent home standards applying to private rentals, and the Fit for Human Habitation Act really starts to kick in at a higher level. So stay informed, talk to us, reach out to us, whether you're one of our landlords or not. We're more than happy to give you a little bit of a steer when it comes to this. And in summary, the Renters' Right Act 2025 is now law. We've been talking about it for ages, but it really is here. And the King signed the Royal Assent 27 December. It gives the local authorities all the power they need to start enforcing on compliance. And the best way to protect yourself is just to make sure that you audit all your paperwork and your certificates, get all your records in order, and get yourself ready. And if you work with us at Essential Management, then you don't need to worry, because we're already prepared and we're doing that on your behalf. So the Act might bring more oversight, but with the right management, it also brings more professionalism, more transparency, and more trust in the rental sector. So thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you'd like to find out more about the Renters' Rights Bill and how that affects you, go over to www.essentialpropertyoptions.co.uk/blog, and I've updated there more information on the bill. Also have a look at our past episodes where Paul and I have been talking about this for at least a year or more, and how we're preparing, and also how we see the economy reacting, how we see the sector acting, how we see landlords acting, and how those amateur landlords have decided to exit the market, and how the professionals are digging in, complying, and ultimately looking for the opportunities that's going to come on the back of it. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you on the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if so, please hit subscribe and share with those who you think would enjoy it too. To get in touch with Paul and Amanda directly, please visit their website www.essentialpropertyoptions.co.uk for more information. We look forward to sharing with you on the next episode.